Uh, well, we were attached with the Marines all the way through from Incheon Landing, and we were above the Chosen Reservoir. You know, the North Koreans were whipped home for Christmas type of thing, you know, and everybody was relaxed. It was the day before Thanksgiving, so they told us they was going to drop us a big Thanksgiving dinner airdrop. And sure enough, Thanksgiving dinner came in by air, you know, dropped us turkeys the whole bit. Had a big dinner and everything, and that night the Chinamen hit us. I mean, they hit us from the rear. They just walked between units. Hell, there was 20 miles between units. And they hit us that night, and we were supposed to fight a land action for the Marines, blow bridges, what have you. And this went on for a couple of days. The thing was, the Marines kept blowing the bridges instead of waiting for us to do it, and we got cut off. Anyway, mortar come in, and I foxholed me and another sergeant, and I got the remainders of it. I come to, started hollering for a medic. I was the only one there, and that's when I became a prisoner. Anyway, they took us to a collection point and kept us there about, well, 8 days, I guess. In that 8 days' time, they'd taken over 800 prisoners, Americans, a few British, Marines, you know, everything mixed up. And most of us were wounded. A lot of the men had frozen feet and hands. When we were captured, a lot of the, well, just like our troops, frontline troops, you know, it's pretty rough when you're first captured. Well, they took our boots and gloves, everything away from us. A lot of men had frozen feet and hands. And they had us at this collection point. They had a few interrogations there. And they separated a few from us, not too many, I guess maybe 20 or 30. What they figured were G2 types. The guys had special information. And these men they sent to a place we call Pox Palace for special interrogations. Anyway, they started us on the march. And this march lasted a little over 3 weeks. And during the march, I guess there were about 10 men that managed to escape. I don't know if they ever made it back to the lines or not. But we would march all night, stand up all day, sleep standing up. And we reached this permanent camp out of over 800 men that started the march. Were only a couple hundred of us left. In other words, over 600 men died for one reason or another along the way. In 1953, when we were released, out of this original group of us, 200 and some that made the march, there were only 87 of us still alive. The thing was, on the march, everybody had to walk. If you were sick or wounded or anything, it was either walk or die. And there was no medical treatment or anything. You had to depend on each other. That was one of the problems, I guess. Nobody wanted to help anybody else. They were worried about themselves, worried about staying alive themselves. No, we don't talk about that.
Tell what happened when you first got to the camp.
Oh, well, we reached this permanent camp. They lined us up in some semblance of a formation. The camp commanders, they called him, came out and gave us a speech, welcoming us, telling us that we were liberated, that we were going to be sent to school in the camp, taught the errors of our ways, how we had been duped by the warmongers and capitalist degenerates and what have you. And, oh man, I can't think of that speech right now.
Oh, that's enough. That's enough.
It's good.
No, I won't.
Let me see.
How about some men that he knew in camp?
Hmm?
How about some men that he might
I can't repeat
No,
those
no,
names
yeah,
or
right.
anything like that.
Why don't you talk a little bit about, I think it would be very useful to them to realize that, I put it in the cook, by the way, to realize that it doesn't matter what you have to do as long as you survive, you know. Some of the things you had to eat.
Oh, okay. Well, we got this camp, there were a couple hundred of us that made it. And they broke us down into what they call squads, about anywhere from 8 to 11 men, depending on the size of the room. These rooms were about, oh, I guess 6 by 6 to 8 by 8 square. And they'd have enough men in it, you know. You go to bed at night, we slept on the floor. The floor was rock, you know, with a little mud over it. And the people across the room, their feet would be up under your armpits, and your feet would be under theirs. Everybody had to lay on their sides. That's how crowded it was. One man turned over at night, and everybody had to turn over, revolve in sleeping type thing. And they gave us cracked corn. Well, I liked it. A lot of guys didn't. They said it tore their stomachs up, but I liked it. Reminded me of hominy, you know, when we boiled it up. And they gave us rice, And damn rice, so, you know, had these, I don't know what you call them, a little white worm, about the same size of a grain of rice before it's cooked. And the only way you could tell it from the rice grain, just looking, was each worm had a little black spot, you know, right at one end. And there were, I guess, for each grain of rice, you had maybe 3 or 4 of these little white worms. And you couldn't separate, you know, you pour it in, you boil it, you'd scoop off the ones that come to the top, and the rest you'd still have a couple for each grain of rice. Eat that damn wormy, sour rice, you know, and pick your teeth and there come a worm out, you know.
Meat?
Oh yeah, meat on the table now. But that rice didn't cook like ours. You know, our rice comes out when you cook it, you know, you got each grain separate. There's just like one big gluey gummy mess, you know, like you make paste out of a flour for a kid to put pictures in. That's the way it come out, you know, all gooey, pasty. That was about all they would give us. Well, they had what they called a sorghum, which I couldn't quite cut. It had a little bug in it, looked like a giant flea with a hard shell, brown, you know. And it was the same as the rice, you couldn't get them out. But anything else we wanted to eat, we had to get ourselves. We used to catch dogs and kill them. The dog's pretty smart. Once, if you go into camp and never come out, they'll walk plumb around it. Made a box, put a stick under it with a long string, put a few grains of sour rice in it, catch these crows, as they call them. Look more like a raven, but they're crows. We catch them, catch sparrows. Caught a cat once. I call it a tiger cat, you know, a big old tomcat with yellow stripes. Come strolling into camp. And me and old Big Mike and Hershey, we were standing there watching it. And so we got on each side of the hut as it come around the corner. Big Mike grabbed it. He grabbed it by the neck. I guess he's going to choke the damn thing to death. And as he was trying to choke it, that cat was just clawing hell on with his hind legs, you know what a cat does. So Hershey, he grabbed the cat by the hind leg and beat his brains out. And we started skinning that cat, and that was the stinkingest damn thing I ever smelled in my life. I mean, I smell dead things rotting, you know, but this cat really stunk. But we skinned it and gutted it, wrapped it up in that damn muddy clay, put it in the coals, you know, to cook. Left it there about 4 or 5 hours, took it out, started hacking the mud off, and man, it did stink. And me and Hershey took a leg apiece, Mike took a leg. The more me and Hershey would chew, the more we had in our mouth. We couldn't eat it. Now, Big Mike had that whole damn cat, all by himself. But we'd eat anything else, you know, dogs, mice, anything, but boy, we couldn't stomach that cat. I mean, you just eat whatever the hell you can get. I mean, they don't give you any meat. They don't give you any green stuff or anything.
Yeah, you ain't so picky when you're hungry.
And, you know, we'd get night blindness. I don't know if you ever had night blindness, but you step out and it's just twilight, not dark yet. All you can see is just like looking through a long barrel of something. That's all you can see, just a little bit of light and whatever's in front of it. And that goes on for a week, and then pretty soon you're just blind. You step out and it starts to get dark, you can't see nothing. Everybody walking around with a stick, you know. Well, that was a big problem with the food.
What did they make you do during the day, Joe? I mean, did you go to classes or did you work or what?
Well, when we first got there, it was all indoctrination, or well, they call it brain changing, you know. And once a week we'd have the main lecture by one of these main interrogators, or not interrogators, but instructors as they call them. They were all graduates of UCLA, Harvard, what have you. Had this one come through that he rotated between the camps for the special lectures. He was born and raised in California, graduated from UCLA. Well, they spoke English, you know, just like I do, except more intelligent, you know. And they would give us the main lecture once a week, and then the interpreters that we had for each compound, they would pound this same lecture in every day, you know, and we were supposed to talk about it and what have you. If you didn't talk, they cut the ration. But they wouldn't cut it and say it's being cut because you don't listen or you don't talk. They'd say, oh, you're in perilous plains that bombed our supply routes, we cannot get supplies. But voice an opinion, and all of a sudden the air raids would stop, you know. And, I mean, it wasn't hard to figure out what was happening. But then when we escaped, and they brought us back, court-martialed us, they put us what they call their labor camp to learn the errors of your ways through labor, you know, type thing. I guess that's what they call these labor camps they have in Russia or what have you. Same type of deal. And there we cut timber for them. We had a quota to get so much. Well, they would mark the trees to be cut, and each squad would, or you know, details. We broke down in detail. We call them squads. Would have to cut so many of these trees. Cut them, trim them, and then we had to log them off the side of the mountain. Log them off, you just tied a rope around it, and everybody got a hole and pulled it down the foot of the mountain. And if you didn't get your quota, you didn't get a full ration. And at that time in the labor camp, we got 2 meals a day, as they called it. In the morning, we got a cup of bean milk. It was soybean, you know, ground into a flour like. Put it in water and boil it. It looks just like milk, like a powdered milk, you know. Tastes just like a raw bean, goes right through you. And at night we got rice in one form or another, either a rice ball about the size of a softball maybe, if we were lucky, if we got our quota, or a rice congee as they call it, a rice soup, which mostly water, you know. And that was it. In the labor camp anyway.
Did they ever turn on the pressure any other way aside from cutting your rations?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of pressure. If you didn't do what they would say, they would come around in the middle of the night and wake you up, get up, or come with us. They'd take you into a little room with no windows and start talking to you, you know, the old friendly, what's the matter with you? You don't want to listen to us. We don't force you to listen, but if you don't listen, how can you learn? And if you don't learn, how can you ever expect to go home and see your loved ones again? Do you want to go home? Don't you want to see your loved ones again? And naturally you say yes. And say, well, if you don't listen to us, how can you expect to ever return to your homeland? You know, that type of thing. And if you keep going the same way, well, the next thing you know, they start saying you're sabotaging this, you're sabotaging the study, you're sabotaging that. And the next thing you know, you got a court-martial, you're sentenced to the cage or something. The cage, the minimum sentence was 3 weeks. And of course, you know, they say the cage isn't torture, but the cage is about 3 foot long, 3 foot wide, and 3 foot high. It's got a rock or concrete bottom to it. The cages they had in our camp, just like you see in these jungle pictures, you know, with the bars. But when you get in them, your knees are up against your chest, and no matter what way you turn, if you're laying, it's the same position no matter what way you are, laying, sitting, standing on your head or what, your knees are up your chest. You're let out once a day for 3 minutes, and that's it. If you can't wait to go to the toilet, tough. You don't get to wash. You're fed once a day. If you talk or try to talk to the guard or anybody else, you don't get fed that day. And after about a week, you have to be helped out of that cage. You know, if you ever done any work where you're bending over a lot and try to straighten up, well, that's the way it is. And that first week, you know, it feels your bones are coming through your skin and that concrete, and you ache all over and you're sore all over. You got, like, I guess, something like a bed sore, except it's worse, you know, big raw sores on your hip bones and your shoulder and your elbows and what have you. And going at the second week, they don't even bother to take you out of the cage. And all this time you're sitting there in your own filth and what have you. If you didn't have dysentery when you went in for not being able to wash and eating with your hands, you'll have it then. And then you can imagine just squirting out both ends, you know, and you're sitting in the cage. And you give anything, you know, just to be able to stretch a leg out or something. Yeah. But you can't. And they won't help you out of the cage, so you can, so you just don't get out. And after about the second week, you start on your third week, you're just one miserable raw sore, you know, and your mind can't think of it. You don't worry about what they're going to do when you get out. All you want is just to, man, am I going to make it out, you know. And then you start thinking, God, what if these sores really get infected, you know, and I get gangrene or something, then what? And I don't know of any man that ever remember coming out of the cage. So on your third week, that's when your mind just, maybe once or twice in that third week, you might have a lucid moment when you know, man, I'm in a cage, when am I going to get out, you know, how long have I been in? But you just don't, your mind won't function anymore. You're just one living sore, man. I mean, it's hard to explain.
I know.
But then it's not torture, you know, it's just in an uncomfortable position, as they say.